So, if you're like me, the topic of hearing God is potentially a confusing idea, and that was how I kind of approached the topic of hearing God. I always used to hear people say, God told me, or God spoke to me, and I used to think, really? Um, and so I came across some resources that really helped me figure out how to hear God, and so I kind of developed this tool to help pass that on. So um, it's adapted from a guy named Mark Verkler, who talks about the four keys to hearing God's voice. So the first thing to do is to turn to Jesus. And the basic idea is either find a quiet place, or you can do it while you're driving in your car, while you're walking. The idea is that the more comfortable you get with hearing God's voice, the more spontaneous that turning to Jesus will be. But starting off, you may need to find a quiet place so that you can quiet yourself down and really focus on the presence of Jesus. And what do when you turn to Jesus? You tune to spontaneous thoughts. So think about it like this: when you're having a conversation with someone and it's their turn to talk, you're actually receiving their voice as a spontaneous event. In other words, you're not able necessarily to anticipate what they're going to say. And so when you quiet yourself down and turn to Jesus, oftentimes his voice will come to you as a spontaneous thought, a spontaneous feeling. It could even be a spontaneous picture or image. And that one point really helped me in learning how to recognize when God was speaking to me and how he was speaking to me. So the revelation that you get from God, you should definitely take note of that revelation, because Jesus says that when he speaks to us, the words that he speaks to us will make us fruitful, but only if we abide in them. In other words, if we keep going back to them over and over and over again. And so you want to find a way to kind of capture those. And it could be in a journal, it could be on your phone, it could just be in making a mental note in your head of whatever it is God is saying to you. And the last thing you want to do is you want to test the revelation that you receive. You want to make sure it's coming from Jesus by the Spirit. And one way to do that is to test it against the Scriptures. And another way to do that is to share what you hear with someone else and say, hey, does this resonate with you? Does this sound like the voice of God? So these 4 steps were really helpful for me to learn how to hear God's voice, and maybe it'll be helpful for you too.